Hey guys, welcome back, or if you're new, welcome to a new video. I'm Malachite Styx. I'm still not good at intros. So on this channel so far, we've covered mass hysteria twice, Smart Scubbo 9, and 2 true crime cases, one being a unsolved missing persons case and one being a solved murder case. So it's only natural that today I'd want to talk about the paranormal because why the hell not? This channel isn't just going to be like one genre of stuff, it's going to be like a mix of different things that I'm interested in, but all falling under the umbrella of weirdness. Whether it's weird true crime or just true crime in general, I really like true crime. Well, I'm interested in it. I don't like true crime. If I don't like the fact that crimes are committed, I don't like the fact that crimes are committed, of course, and I'd rather true crime didn't exist, but I am very interested in it. I basically just cover what interests me because, ADHD be like that. I'm only going to focus on what interests me. Usually that's the weird going-ons in the world. It always has been, and it most likely always will be. I know a lot of you watching are probably going to be skeptics, and, that's fair enough. I personally am a believer, but I do like to debunk things where possible. I don't like fully believing that, oh my god, it's a ghost. Like, I like trying to debunk things first and then being like, maybe it is paranormal. But sometimes you just know when it's paranormal, if that makes sense. And I feel like the case we're going to cover today is one of those cases where it's paranormal. There isn't really another explanation. And I will go over other possibilities of like theories of what could have happened, but you'll see why I think it is paranormal. Throughout history, there have been multiple reports of ghosts and hauntings. Take the Amityville, for example. While it was and still widely is believed by some that the paranormal was the root cause of those cases, it was never legally or officially declared that paranormal events were the root cause of those cases. And before anyone comments anything, yes, I know most of what, or if not all, of what Ed and Lorraine Warren were involved in is complete bullshit, but that's a whole other rabbit hole to go down, and that's for a different video. Because in today's video, we are going to discuss the first ever case in history to be officially reported in police reports as a paranormal phenomenon. So in 1992, police in Madrid, Spain, received a phone call from Maximo Gutierrez. He claimed that he and his wife were being attacked by tall, shadowy figures. And of course, the officer on the other end of the phone didn't really believe what Maximo was saying. Why would he? Why would anyone believe that, He thought it was just a prank call, some sort of hoax, but he still decided to go and investigate anyway, just to make sure that it wasn't like an actual break-in or some sort of like mental health episode, which is fair enough, Man, police doing the job, we love to see it. Upon arriving, they actually soon found out that there was no sign of forced entry or theft, and police actually noted that when they arrived, the house had an eerie quietness to it. But with no visible signs of a break-in, police called the family back inside to talk as, well, they deemed the house as safe. Little did they know, it was quite the opposite. Pretty much as soon as they all sat down to talk, the police heard a loud bang coming from what they thought was in the direction of the porch. They reported it as sounding like a large boulder had fallen and rolled past on the ground. Of course, they went outside to check what it was, but there was nothing there. Obviously, they were confused, but while they were standing there all puzzled, one of the officers shouted to another one to duck down. And he ducked down just as the closet door violently swung open. Apparently, it only just missed hitting the officer on the head. Now, I know I said they went out onto the porch. I don't know if there's a closet on the porch. I'm going to be real with you. Most of my information came from translated Spanish articles. And before you click away, I'm not misinforming you. I did a lot of research, okay? I just kind of presumed that, some of them were on the porch, some of them were still inside, sort of thing. Some of the information in this case was kind of hard to decide what was real and what was mistranslation that had led to misinformation over time, because this happened in the 90s. It was hard finding anything on it in English that I could actually find evidence for, but I managed to find Spanish newspapers from the time, and I did my best, okay? If I do say anything that is false or wrong, if I misinform you guys and I'm misinforming you, please feel free to correct me down below. I know it's not your job, but sometimes it's hard to do research when it's all in a foreign language that I'm not fluent in, so yeah. But anyway, back to the police officer that nearly got his head took off by a closet door, somehow. Despite what they had just witnessed, of course, they didn't just jump straight to the conclusion that it's a ghost, because, well, they're police officers, and, not a lot of police officers are going to jump to the conclusion that they're being tormented by the paranormal. In fact, they actually thought it was someone playing a prank on them. They checked inside and outside and they couldn't seem to find anything that would cause that, so they were confused as hell. No strings, nobody else was around, the family was where they left them. It was just the cops in there, and they had no reason to play a prank on each other, especially while on duty. So how was it a prank? And now it was starting to feel a bit too weird, so due to this, some officers admitted that the situation was getting a bit too much for them and stepped outside, and honestly, I do not blame them. Meanwhile, the remaining officers returned to the Gutierrez family to ask them what the hell was going on, in which Mr. Gutierrez told officers about the strange and eerie death of his 18-year-old daughter, Estefania, who had passed away just a few years prior, and why they think her death is connected to the current paranormal events going on in their house. But to understand why Mr. Gutierrez and the rest of the family think that Estefania's death is connected to what was currently going on in the house at the time, we need to go back even further. We need to know about the circumstances leading up to Estefania's death. What exactly happened and how was her death connected to the current hauntings going on in the family home? Come with me as we dive into the strange and eerie Vallecas case. Estefanía Gutiérrez Lázaro was born in 1973 and lived in Vallecas, South Madrid. She was the eldest child and had some interest in the paranormal and the occult, which isn't uncommon for some teenagers her age, but what made this a bit strange was the fact that her family was quite religious, like Catholic. Life was fairly good for them until that fateful day when their lives changed forever. In March of 1990, Estefania had gone to school like she would any other day, but what made this day different was the fact that she or one of her friends had bought a Ouija board with them. I know Ouija boards are just like any other form of divination, but I do not mess with Ouija boards. I have a bad past with Ouija boards. I do not mess with them. So this, no. Anyway, now you might be thinking, why have some teenage girls bought a Ouija board in school? Or that might be normal for some of you, I don't know. But it's not normal for teenage girls or anyone really to bring a Ouija board to school, so why did they? And well, I can tell you that that is because one of the girls in that group, Estefania's friend, her boyfriend had passed away recently from a tragic motorcycle accident. Obviously, she was grieving, she was mourning him, so the girls agreed to try and contact him through a Ouija board. They were going to attempt a séance. And it's worth mentioning that the school that Estefania attended was very religious, very Catholic, so this was a big no-no. So you can imagine the teacher's horror when she came around the corner and saw a group of girls playing with a goddamn Ouija board in the school. The teacher was so horrified that she not only scolded the girls, but actually broke the board. And while breaking the board, she managed to break the glass on the planchette. Both the students and the teacher reported seeing a greyish-white smoke escape from the now broken planchette, like it was once trapped but was now free. They claimed to have witnessed the smoke travel up towards Estefania, and she seemed to inhale it through her mouth and nose. After the incident, Estefania would never be the same again, and nor would anything in her life. According to her parents, Estefania began having hallucinations, seeing these faceless and sometimes cloaked, hooded shadow figures. She would have random fits of rage and would even start convulsing, like she started having seizures out of nowhere. And another creepy thing that she said about these faceless, cloaked shadow people was that they were evil and they wanted her to go with them. If that is true, full body chills. That would... I don't like shadow people, they scare me. She also started to suffer from insomnia and apparently even started barking at her brothers. I do that for fun, not because I'm possessed. But I can imagine that would be scary. Of course, her family were worried and her parents took her to numerous doctors and hospitals, but despite undergoing many examinations, nobody could ever find anything wrong with her. Nothing ever showed up on her test results. It really was a mystery. Nobody could tell them what on earth was happening to their daughter. On July 13th, 1991, her mental state had begun to deteriorate. It had got so bad that she violently attacked her sister, and apparently while doing so, she was foaming at the mouth, and that isn't normal. And after the attack, they stated that her health only further declined. She ended up suffering from a seizure that was so bad that she ended up getting hospitalized, and it was due to the seizure that she would end up falling into a coma. The doctors call it a cataleptic state, which is where you basically become statue-like. Your muscles get rigid, basically. Unfortunately, Estefania would never wake up from this coma, and to make it worse for the family, they wouldn't get any answers from her death, as despite an autopsy being performed, there was never any official cause of death. In fact, the autopsy reported it as a sudden and suspicious death. I can't imagine how her family must feel at this point in time. Like, shit, weird, horrible shit's going on with your daughter, and then she dies, and then you still don't get answers, and still probably to this day don't know what happened. Don't like that. Though marking her death as sudden and suspicious kind of makes it feel as though they're hinting towards something, like there's more to it, but they can't say. Or maybe that's just me, I don't know, but I mean, paranormal or not, can you imagine if they actually had marked her death as paranormal, like paranormal circumstances? Who would believe that? Like, even as a believer myself, I'd be like, really? You know what I mean? Seeing something like that on someone's death certificate, like cause of death, paranormal events, that's wild. So you can't blame them for putting her death as that if it was paranormal related, you know? I might sound crazy to you skeptics right now. Hey, I might sound crazy to you believers, I don't know, but it's wild, man. Estefania's parents buried her body with Catholic rituals, and they obviously loved their daughter, so they wanted to keep her room exactly as it was when she was still alive. Apparently her mum did clean the room, you know, probably like dust it and stuff, and then locked it to keep everything as it was. But for a few days, things actually seemed fine for now. As I already mentioned, Estefania's family were and probably still are very religious people, but they all embraced the fact that her mother's dad, so maternal grandfather, may have wanted revenge through Estefania due to having like a difficult, conflicting relationship with him during life. And you might be thinking, Malachite, why the hell are you bringing up this now? Where has this come from all of a sudden? You didn't mention a grandpa before. Yeah, well, that's because I had trouble finding that he actually existed. But I found proof, so I'm including it. Basically, something that backed up their belief was what happened after Estefania's death, because even though she had died, the paranormal phenomena continued to torment and terrorize the Gutierrez family. And Estefania's mother, Conception, even claimed to hear her daughter's voice calling out to her from different rooms in the house. Crucifixes moved involuntarily, and apparently one was found with Jesus separated from the cross. That's freaky shit. And going back to the theory of the grandpa potentially being the cause of this, Conception also reported hearing laughter of an old man, and that just doesn't sound good to me. If that is grandpa's a dick. On one occasion, Conception even reported feeling like someone was touching her while she was trying to sleep. Everyone's nightmare. In fact, the kids even reported feeling like they had been grabbed by some sort of invisible force. Then, on November 1st, 1992, a photo of Estefania mysteriously went up in flames. Creepy shit. The eerie thing about this, though, like if a photo mysteriously set on fire with no explanation wasn't creepy enough already. Well, what makes this more creepy is the fact that the only part of the photo that was burnt was specifically the part that showed Estefania's face. The frame and any other objects, including the piece of furniture it stood on, when burnt, they were fine. It was just that piece of the photo, Estefania's face, that had been burnt. Nothing else was burnt. Not even the frame, and that's what's weird to me. Of course, there could be explanations for this, but for now, let's keep talking about this as if it's paranormal, and we'll get to like the debunking stuff at the end. So yeah, no further damage was caused to any of the objects surrounding the photo, not even the frame. Creepy. Of course, the family was terrified and they decided enough was enough, but it wouldn't be until November 27th that they would finally decide to call the police. Honestly, I would have called them as soon as that photo went up in flames, but you do you, boo. So we already briefly discussed what went on with the police, but just to quickly go over it and refresh your minds, as well as add more stuff in. Inspector Jose Negri and his team arrived at the house. Upon arriving at the house, they found the family stood outside in the rain, refusing to step foot in the house. While some officers talked to the family to compile a story of the situation at hand, Inspector Negri and the remaining officers entered the house. They witnessed many things, such as the closet door opening violently, odd noises, and even a strange brown slime that appeared on the table. I don't even want to know what that is. They also found a crucifix torn from the wall with 3 clear scratch marks where it once hung. If you are into paranormal shit like I am, you will know that 3 scratch marks usually indicate something demonic. So it's not looking good for the Gutierrez family right now, I'm not gonna lie. But nonetheless, they continued their investigation, and it was when they investigated the bathroom that they noticed a sudden drop in temperature. It created an unusually cold feeling in there. Everything the cops experienced in the house was written down and compiled into one report. And that is what became the first ever case officially reported in Spanish history to admit the existence of unexplained factors, or the paranormal. But despite everything the police experienced, the case was closed. Why? Due to a lack of consistency. I mean, there was nothing they could do. What were they supposed to do? Who are you gonna call? Not the Ghostbusters, because they ain't real, but you know what are? Ghosts. And there was nothing anybody could do about it, so the case was closed. But it was after all of these events that paranormal investigators started taking an interest in this and even started to investigate the house. In fact, the Gutierrez family and the paranormal going-ons appeared on a TV show called Cuatro Milenio. The exact episode, I believe, is called Expediente Vallecas. Apologies if I butchered that. They had help from various experts, paranormal investigators, psychics, and religious officials in attempts to cleanse it. It was during one of these investigations that allegedly a psychic medium got possessed by the malevolent spirit of Grandpa. This was actually caught and documented on camera and was actually broadcast on a news outlet dating back to October 14th, 1992.
¡Vuelve! 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 ¡Vuelve!
The psychic said that while the grandfather's spirit was haunting the family, Estefania's spirit actually remained and was protecting the family. Allegedly, she was stopping her grandpa and any other bad, negative spirits that wanted to bring harm upon her family, which kind of sweet. And to back up the psychic's claim, they actually captured an EVP. The EVP contained the voice of a female who was believed to be Estefania, and she said, which roughly translates to beware of grandfather. In conception, Stefania's mother actually affirmed that her father, the grandpa, told her before dying that he would make her life impossible from the afterlife. Grandpa sounds like a real sack of shit. Looking back on it all now, Grandpa dying seemed to trigger an event of bullshit, like just absolute horror. He told his daughter he would make her life impossible from the afterlife, basically make her life a living hell. Then her daughter allegedly gets possessed and passes away due to said possession. And then the rest of her family is tormented because their house appears to be haunted, and Grandpa and Estefania are battling it out in the afterlife, trying to one's trying to harm the family and the other one's trying to protect the family. Yeah, Grandpa wasn't lying when he said he was going to make the life a living hell. Like, Jesus Christ. Literally. It's what he needs, actually. It's one thing to be an evil sack of shit in life, but to be an evil sack of shit in death as well. Like, what an absolute sorry excuse of a human being. Now, I know a lot of you are probably thinking, why don't they just move? Especially if they have other children. Why put them in harm's way and stay there? Well, for one, if you've never experienced grief, shh, okay? Even if there is weird shit going on in the house, that is where Estefania grew up. It's where she once lived. Her room is there, her things are there. It's the last room she touched in life while she was alive was there. And it was left exactly how it was when she was still alive. So being a grieving mother, a grieving family, of course they're not going to want to move because they won't want to leave Estefania's stuff behind. But also there's other things to take into consideration, like, you know, money, the fact that their life is there. If they move too far away, they'll have to, you know, put the children in school, different schools and stuff. There's a lot that goes into moving. Moving is a proper ball ache of a process, honestly. But yeah, maybe they couldn't afford to do it. Maybe it was due to grief. Maybe it was a mixture of the two. But you will be glad to know that eventually they did move. And When they sold their home, it actually seemed to put an end to the paranormal events. So much so that the people who moved in to the Gutierrez's original house where the hauntings went on after they'd moved out never reported anything paranormal happening. It was almost as if moving was the key to stop it all. Weirdly. But allegedly, and take this with a pinch of salt, Estefania's sister claims that she still sees strange things and that she is able to feel when somebody is about to die. Creepy. But aside from that, the family are okay, as well as okay as they can be now anyway, as far as I'm aware. There was a article where two of Estefania's brothers did an interview for a magazine. I believe it was in 2017 or 2018, but I couldn't access it because you had to pay, and I'm not paying $24 to read one article for a video, okay? I'm a broke bitch. I'm not going to pay money to read something online. The reason why her brothers did that interview in the first place is because the movie Veronica was actually based off this whole event. I haven't seen the movie myself, but apparently it is kind of freaky, which is good. I like freaky shit. But just keep in mind that if you have seen it or are planning to watch it, a lot of what is in the movie was fabricated or over-exaggerated for the movie. From what I gathered from people who have read the article, the brothers didn't really... The movie was, like... How do I word this? They basically just said that, like, the movie didn't accurately show what happened, and no shit, it needs to be entertaining. So, of course, they're going to over dramatize stuff, include things that didn't really happen and stuff like that. But that is pretty much all I got from that. I couldn't read it, unfortunately. If I could, then I would have shared it with you. But I'm just putting that out there just in case any of you guys have a subscription or know some totally legal way to read it for free. That's pretty much everything. As far as I'm aware, they're all just living their lives now, which is good. I hope they're all doing well and that they're okay. But now that we've gone over everything that happened to the Gutierrez family and leading up to Estefania's death, it's now time to discuss the theories. Theory number one is that this is complete bullshit and the family was suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning, which seems very likely, and I'm not completely against this idea, but I have some factors as to why I'm like iffy on this theory. So I'm going to state some reasons as to why I think it could be and reasons why I don't think it is. I'm very on the fence about this. But if there's one theory I have to believe in to debunk this whole thing, it would be the carbon monoxide theory. But consistent low-level carbon monoxide exposure can sometimes lead to seizures, and from what we know, Estefania didn't suffer from seizures her whole life. It just randomly started, and it just so happened to start after the whole Ouija board incident. So that could be a reason as to why she started suddenly having seizures. But also, the officers who visited the house reported feeling nauseated, but that correlates with carbon monoxide poisoning too. But something that makes me on the fence about this is if you get to a point with carbon monoxide poisoning where you are convulsing, apparently you usually die within 20 to 30 minutes, but Estefania was alive for months from the moment she started having seizures, and she even had the seizures while she was outside of the house. And look, I'm not an expert on carbon monoxide poisoning, but as far as I'm aware, you only seem to get the effects when in the area with the poisoning, with the leak even. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Again, I'm not an expert. I didn't pass science in high school, okay? But I try and do as much research as I can and try and get it all from reliable sources. I do apologize if this is wrong. I am just telling you what I believe is true because I have read it myself from so-called reliable sources, hopefully. And then another thing I'm just kind of on is, would carbon monoxide poisoning not show up on her autopsy? I mean, it could have been overlooked. It was 1992. We didn't have the same level of standards back then as we do now in healthcare, or most things, to be honest. Healthcare has come a long way since 1992, so it could have been overlooked. Autopsies might be different now. They probably are different now. Would it not show up on her autopsy? Morticians, let me know. I mean, it's possible that she died from other health issues brought on by carbon monoxide poisoning, rather than, quick organ failure due to the carbon monoxide poisoning, which is what I think happens when you have carbon monoxide poisoning. And then the other theory, this is like the only other thing I could call it anyways, family hysteria. They were a religious family, a very religious family. She went to a very religious school. It's possible that she was prone to hysteria and sort of happened like a mass hysteria kind of thing, but not mass hysteria because it just happened within the family, if that makes sense. I don't know, because then if it's family hysteria, why did the cops experience things? Maybe I'm overthinking this. I don't know. Overthinking is what I do best. But aside from that, that's all I can really think of. If it was just Estefania, it could have been put down to just like a major mental health crisis, but her entire family experienced this. The cops experienced this. A TV show came to her home and picked up the EVP. That could have been faked, I know, but believing that this is paranormal, what other explanation is there, you know? But if you are a skeptic and you do like to debunk things, or even a believer that likes to try and debunk things, do let me know if you have any theories on this. You might have a bigger, more knowledgeable brain than I do. Again, I am not a carbon monoxide professional, nor am I a professional on hysteria, despite doing 2 videos on it already. Because yeah, doing 2 videos on hysteria is all you need to be a professional on it, of course. And I'm also not a professional on the paranormal, as much as I wish I was, but I'm not. It could be a number of things that happened to this family, but at the end of the day, Estefania unfortunately lost her life. Somebody lost a daughter, a sister, a cousin, a niece, a friend, and it is really unfortunate that she passed away, especially at such a young age. She was only 18 when she passed away, and the last few months of her life sounded like hell. So, you know, it's very, very unfortunate. I really do hope that her family are doing as good as they can be now, like a lot better than they were back then anyway, and that they never have to experience anything like that again. And I hope Grandpa is burning in hell, because he sounds like a piece of shit in life and death. Please don't come after me, Mr. Grandpa Man. I will cry. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can say on this topic. I'm not sure how this video is going to turn out, honestly. It felt a little all over the place. Researching was hard because I don't speak fluent Spanish and I had to rely on translator, and I don't fully trust translators, so apologies if stuff came out weirdly or if my facts aren't 100% correct. I hate spreading misinformation, so if there is misinformation in this, I dearly apologize for that. Let me know if you have any theories down below, if you agree or disagree with my reasoning on said theories, or even if you have more theories than I had. If you do, you have a big, beautiful, wonderful brain. Thank you for sharing. I always read the comments and I try to reply to anyone that I can think of coming up with a reply, because sometimes people leave things and I'm like, oh, that is so nice. I don't know how to reply because I'm awkward as hell. So yeah, the research was kind of hard, but then filming it, I felt like I was just a bit all over the place and wasn't my usual self. Like, I was a bit, I don't know how to explain it. Maybe I'm just overthinking shit again. Maybe I just need to shut up and end the video. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for all the support recently. Like, oh my god, we're almost at 100 subscribers. Thank you so much if you've subscribed so far, and for watching and liking and commenting. You guys are insane in the best way possible. Thank you. I am scared. I don't know where all of you have come from. I feel like when Patrick goes back to his little rock house and there's a lot of eyes around it and he's like, who are you people? That is me right now, but in the best way possible. Thank you so much for watching me and supporting me. It really does mean the world. And if you like my content, or just me in general, I don't know, then I would like to remind you that I also have other social media platforms. I have Instagram and TikTok. Unfortunately, I have Twitter or X or whatever the hell you want to call it, but I don't really use it because I don't like Elon Musk. He's a prick. I also have Blue Sky, but it intimidates me, so I don't really use it, but it's there. Do I have anything else? I have Pinterest, but I don't really know how it works, so it's just there. I uploaded like one photo and panicked and exited the app. I think that's it. I think that's all I have. But yeah, I have those things, so feel free to follow me there. It's Malachite Styx on every social that I have. Yeah, that's it. Still don't know how to do intros. Outros, I mean, I don't know how to do intros either, but it's a lot better than my outros. I'll try and do a proper outro for once. Don't play with Ouija boards. Shit. Don't play with Ouija boards. And if you do, always say goodbye. Make sure you always say goodbye, or something bad is most likely going to happen. You need to do it right if you're going to... Okay. Don't play with Ouija boards, but if you do, make sure you say goodbye and do it properly. Cleanse your house. Have protection. Not in that way. I mean, that way too, but I'm not talking about that this time. Spiritual protection, like crystals and shit. Is that a good outro? That's the best I got in me, honestly. I suffer from brain fog, so that's as good as it's gonna get, unfortunately. But yeah, bye. H-O-T-T-O-G-O. Evil grandpa's got to go. Bye.